We pray it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for spending time with us tonight. Pledge of allegiance, please. Two sets of minutes. First, we'll take April 27, 2026 regular council meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Is there corrections or additions? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll now take May 4th, 2026 special council meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there discussion or corrections or additions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Public comment. Now, time to open the floor for public comment. Anybody that would like to address the council, you can come to the podium, name and address, and we will be glad to listen for up to 5 minutes. How about on Zoom? Is there anybody?
Jody is. Okay.
Go ahead, Jody.
Hi, I just want to say that for transparency purposes, I don't understand why all meetings, including the one last week, were not on Zoom and Facebook and whatever else you put them on, but they were not available via IT. And of course, there was no necessarily warning for that. And I guess I don't think that is appropriate, and I'd like to hope that doesn't happen in the future, especially the special meeting on Thursday. Is that going to be broadcast? And also, I just want to let you know that your picture on Zoom is extremely blurry. So thank you. Oh, 309 East Shepherd.
Is there anybody else on Zoom?
No.
Is there a way of, can we answer her question of why?
Sure.
Go ahead. Mr. Manager, would you answer the question?
We actually had the discussion today whether we were going to televise that. I guess even when you did my interim interview, that was televised on Facebook. So I think it's probably a good idea to televise it this Thursday, unless there's any objections from council.
For the interviews, definitely. I think she also inquired about the last special meeting. Now, in that case, the candidates have a right to not be disclosed, and so by law, we can't talk about in an open meeting. Maybe you could explain that better, too.
Yes, council is allowed to consider applications for the manager position if the candidates requested confidentiality, and that they only get announced once the council has decided who they would like to interview, and they have agreed to the interview, and at that point in time, then they get posted. So, we were certainly compliant with the Open Meetings Act in that regard with that. And then just the scheduling of the meeting was done in open session, but that was just more of a administrative formality, if you will. So.
Hope that answers your question, Jody. Next, we have approval of the agenda. Is there any corrections or changes people would like with the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda as printed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed. I'd like to move on to the consent agenda. Item A, approval of claims and expenditures. For questions?
Okay. Now that we've already approved the agenda the way it is, how we can, I think how we can handle that. When we get to the consent agenda, let's have you make a motion that you remove that, whatever you want removed from the consent agenda before we
That's fine.
consent, okay? So, communications and committee reports. First of all, in talking with the manager, of course, the budget that he has put together, it's his budget for the city, actually, it's not our budget, but I would encourage all members, and I know Councilman Christensen did, I don't know if any of the rest of you have, I've talked to him, but you need to put some time, hopefully in the next week, or at the least in 2 weeks' time. Call the manager, come in and meet with him and have him go through the budget. 2 of you at a time would be fine, but we need to make sure that you do that. That will save a huge amount of time when we get to discussing the budget. You'll already have a lot of the answers that you're not sure of. And he can answer them, you know, he produced the budget, and so he can answer the questions of it. It's better than us throwing things out at him that he doesn't know what he's, you know, look for. So I would encourage everybody to do that. And we'd also like to, at this time, announce that there will be a special meeting May 14th at 6:00 PM. The council knows about this. And we'll be interviewing the following candidates. At 6:05, it'll be Vester Davis. At 6:50 PM, it will be Howard Fink. And at 7:35 PM, it will be Scott Czak. Those will be the 3 candidates that we'll be interviewing this Thursday, and I assume the way you're talking, it will be televised.
Yep.
Okay?
Look to make arrangements. I'm looking at the clerk too, so I know we had a conversation beforehand, so.
Okay. All right, that'll take us to the manager's report. Mr. Manager.
Thank you. Just a couple of items. One is we got word that MDOT is going to be doing their work later this fall. I think earlier we were expecting some spring work from them, but they've moved it until September after the festival there with Frontier Days. The other thing with it, related to the budget as well, I gave you a handout, but there's a few things in there that I really want to focus on. Some of it is the millage. It is, as I mentioned to a couple of folks already, the recycling and leaf collection villages in the past were never sufficient to cover the cost of service. And so, with the proposed budget I submitted, I looked to remedy that. But also, Stephanie had put some additional personnel time into it and some capital with that. It number can come down, but it results in overall about a 0.4 mil increase overall. A lot of the others are coming down, actually. But the other is the DDA has current millage is 1.2158. Historically, it was over 1.8 mils, and then last year it dropped, and so we need to have a discussion related to that. The proposed budget was built on the higher millage amount, and so to look at that. And then the other is, since I submitted the budget a month ago, obviously, as you look through things and reconsider, one of them, I think, is looking at the finance department and recommending a utility billing. I had mentioned to you in some correspondence some of the problems that we've had, and really how light the service, the number of personnel we have dedicated is in relationship to experience I have had. And so one of the things, I recommended is putting $100,000 to be paid out of the water and sewer fund for an additional position. And keep it in the context of, one, you're already starting with, under best circumstances, barely enough staffing. Now you're going to add the smart meters coming in, and it would be overwhelmed and actually a waste of money if you don't have the right people and the resources with that coming in. But long-term, where it does position the city is to have a more effective billing process, and ultimately looking at doing monthly billing. But you got to have personnel to do it and make it work. And so combination of those where I have reconsidered when I had submitted the budget a month ago, it's just a need that we have. So with that, when I meet with you and then ultimately with the full council to make some decisions that we can go through fairly quickly, that you at least have a good understanding. But I thought it was important to mention those couple items that you'll see on the handout that I gave on, it's actually on the second page. So at any rate, that's all I have there.
Questions for the manager? on to the attorney report.
Thank you, Mayor. Last council's session, I believe I had my report in there that was dated up through April 28th. And as the council knows, I tend to do these things 4 to 8 weeks, and it depends on how things build up. So you don't have a written report in your packet, but I would like to expand on the prior report that you did have in your packet. As far as one of the ordinance things that we're working on is we have taken the law enforcement ordinances and we're going through those to match those up with current amendments to state law. So I anticipate in this quarter bringing that to the council with Chief Brentar to update the law enforcement ordinances. And so we're nearly done with our review of those. The next thing that was on your April 23rd report was discussions with the chief regarding MACP accreditation, Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police. And we're going to continue to advocate for that accreditation. You know, that group is an excellent group. I've worked with them over the years. And one of my other departments recently received their accreditation. So I have multiple departments that have received their accreditation. And that really helps police departments look at their policies and procedures internally for best practices and to bring those things up to date. I know there's an agenda item for Camp Francis, but I might as well just go into that right now. We have worked with Ms. Whitney and Susie DeBeck on updating the bylaws. And so we have a meeting this week to hear how their board responded to those. And we also have some other things in the works, like a service agreement, a lease agreement, some of those things that haven't been done in the past that we anticipate further discussions with Ms. Whitney, your city manager, Vince, and others. So I anticipate more action on that. To kind of go through some of the things we can talk about, we've been spending, I think, a fair amount of time with Fire Chief Fullerton, Assistant Chief Dan Daly on some of the code enforcement issues. We've been getting compliance. We've been meeting with some of the property violation persons in district court. And I think we've been able to resolve some of those things, parking, junk, things like that, cars. And so I think in a short amount of time, we're showing some results and some success in that regard. We've got some other things in the works. I'm not going to steal Fire Chief Fullerton's moment tonight and Assistant Chief Daly, but we've spent some time in the last couple of weeks working with them on ordinances that they're going to seek introduction tonight, and obviously fully endorse those plans as well. So I think we've been pretty busy in working on the agenda of kind of modernizing, placing some priority on some of the quality of life issues that we've been tasked with. And I have to say that working with the group and your interim manager here, it's been very good. So thank you for inviting me back tonight to give this report. We'll give you more of a written report for the next council meeting. Don't know if I'll be there, but you'll have more in print. So tonight, I looked at the April 23rd and I gave you an update on those categories. Thanks.
Questions for the attorney? Okay.
Thank you.
Any comments from the staff that's here tonight? Council member committee reports. We'll start over here.
My normal committee is CARC, which meets tomorrow, so I don't have anything to report, but I represented the Housing Committee at a Home Builder Association event at Eden Community Bank, and just talked to a lot of builders and developers and did kind of the usual dog and pony show where we're just open for business.
E-Tran is Wednesday. That's it.
There is no Parks meeting for the month of May, and so there's nothing new to report at the moment.
Camp Francis meeting's tomorrow, so nothing to report.
I have nothing for consent agenda. Mr. Kim, would like to make a motion?
Yeah, I move to move item A to the regular business agenda.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion, any reason why? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll just actually make that, we'll make it before A. What, 0? No. A minus, okay?
A minus.
A minus. That's going to be claims. 8.1. Okay, any other concerns on the consent agenda before we go over them?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay? We'll list them all out so the people understand what they're listening to. First item on the consent agenda then is to authorize to apply for a SOM, which is State of Michigan Fire Equipment Grant Program. That would be for, fire equipment. Number 2 is authorized to apply for an Eagle Community Energy Management Grant for the West Side Fire Station HVAC controls upgrade. And CEM stands for Community Energy Management. So it's an Eagle. Eagle is another terminology for the state, but it's Community Energy Management. Third one is authorization to apply for a volunteer fire capacity grant. And the fourth one is authorized to apply for MD, Michigan Department of Natural Resources, Urban and Community Forestry Grant Resolution 2026-29. Just so that everybody's clear on those things. Most of these are at no cost to the city. It's a reimbursement type of deal. And the grant down at the bottom, I'm sure Mr. Brummett is excited about that. That would be having to do with the tree nursery. Or to be able to purchase some things. So, and all that really, all approval of this really does is allow the department heads in the city to apply for the grant. Anything that would become of it, any purchase or spending any money, would have to come back to the council. Everybody's clear on that? Do you have a question?
Yes, there is one grant, though, that is like a 50% match, right? One of them is.
As I remember, yes, but it's a smaller amount. It's the one from Wildland or something. It's $10,000. So a match would be $5,000, which I'd assume the department would have that in the capital outlay for this past year. We'd probably end up saving $5,000 rather than spending the 10. So be a good deal. All those in favor of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. On to the business agenda. First item is A minus. That's claims and accounts. And the claims and expenditures total $651,148.06. So do we have a motion for approval?
Make that motion.
Is there a
Second.
And now the discussion. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, first of all, I'm not sure if I missed it or not, but normally when we have independent bank payments, there's a detail of credit card payments, and I didn't see that this time. The second item is the addition of the item that we pulled off of the payments last in terms of making payment to the Rotary for the membership that started with our with Selena Benavides, who left. And again, I don't think that this is a payment that is authorized or legal under state statute. And it talks about the fact that, and very specifically, I have the compliance. It says, may a Michigan City Village make a charitable donation, gift, or contribution to service clubs, charities, or public or private social service agencies. And it reads as follows. Generally, no such expenditures have been held not to be used for a public purpose. Even if the expenditure benefits the public incidentally, The expenditure may be nonetheless invalid if the appropriation is not under the control of the city, village. However, MCL 117.3 indicates that the charters of home rule cities shall provide for the public peace, health, and safety of persons or property. Specifically, a home rule city may contract with a private organization or another governmental unit for services considered necessary by the legislative body. Now, in this case, they're asking us to pay for something that has not been received. Secondly, it is not under the control of the city how that money is spent, and therefore should not be allowed to be paid. Every individual that belongs to that organization, it's their responsibility. I did not find in the materials that was sent to me an agreement, a contract of any kind that causes the city to be liable for the payment of a member that is not with them anymore. Now, the statute goes on to say that
Because this isn't on the claims, that's really a different question. There's no Rotary claim this month.
it was added to the expenditures, and I got the information back. It's at the very end of the claims
Is
expenditure.
it on there?
Yeah, they added that,
Okay,
that
if it's-
money. They added that money.
Christine would know that.
It's at the end of the claims and expenditures. It was added because it was tabled the last meeting, so it's added to the total of the claims and
So
expenditures.
your comments are well within reason.
Yep.
I wasn't on the one that I had, but I might have had an early claim. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yep, no problem. So anyway, that's, the issue is whether or not the city is liable for someone who joins an organization. Now, the only thing that the law allows is, and it talks about very clearly, that if membership dues to governmental associations such as MTA, MML, MAC, and similar organizations that advise, inform, and educate officials and employees are appropriate. So that's an exception to the rule. But again, the Rotary is not a training and education for the purposes of a city. And I would make a motion that that expenditure be removed from the claims and expenditure, and notify the Rotary that if anything, they should, in which they attempted to contact Selena for the payment that they're seeking.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Any more discussion?
In here? Or is it recommended that we pass this?
I've got a discussion on that matter.
Go ahead.
I do believe that even without all that brought up, that those individual memberships should be the individuals themselves paying that. And so I would concur with the fact that that should not be the city's expenditure. And if that is in fact the way that the law reads, then it should be that cut and dry. Attorney, if necessary, could handle those matters if that was our choosing. And otherwise, we're not responsible for that fee. And then going forward, any staff who chooses to join the Rotary in the future, which we've been as a city having staff on Rotary in the past, how that was handled, I can't say. But in the future, those would be the responsibilities of the individuals. And that should be the case with most all service organizations anyway, because the city isn't represented by those service organizations. They're just there to make that kind of association. We don't have a Rotary membership, so therefore Rotary doesn't help us in any fashion, and we necessarily don't help them. It's kind of like we just exist together, and we're not foes, but coexisting. So that's my thought on the matter, is that if it's cut and dry that the law says we shouldn't pay the bill, then we don't pay the bill.
Any other discussion? My personal take is I never believed in it for the 20 years we've been doing it. And I thought it was always unfortunate that if we could do it for one, we should do it for everybody in the city. But I never won that battle, so I'm glad to see it's up. I'm sorry I didn't see it. It's not added on my claims, but must be I missed a mailing or something, so I'm fine with that.
I'm in heated agreement.
The claims report, just an added line at the very end with the total.
So it's not in with the claims themselves.
Not listed, no, because it was on the last listed report, so I just added in at the very end the tabled claim from last discussion.
Okay.
So,
Any other discussion? All in favor of removing the claim, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Claim is removed. Any other things on the consent, or on the claims, I'm sorry?
Yeah, I was wondering if I missed it, or are we supposed to get the detail of the credit card when we pay independent?
I wasn't aware that it wasn't in there, so
Yeah,
we can send the information, so.
Well, I don't want to table it, but just a reminder that we need to have that for future reference. We've always had it, but I don't know what happened this time.
Okay, so we'll have the claims, actually will be $500 and some less the amount that's listed there? Correct?
Yep.
So it'd be $500 and some less than the $651, $148.06. That's the claims we'll be paying. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? A minus is approved, as corrected, as amended. Now, we get into the second reading and adoption of zoning ordinance in the map.
Move to adopt.
Is there a second?
Second.
Now we need discussion and presentations. Whoever is going to do it for the city, and I know there's a bunch of stuff going on.
So just, I guess, a recap of why we're here, how we got here, right? Obviously, the zoning ordinance was over a year in process. The city hired John from Beckett Rader, and John was our coordination point with them, the consultant that we used for advice throughout that whole process. Obviously, last month, you guys, actually, 2 meetings ago, you had the proposed zoning ordinance that the Planning Commission forwarded on to you. With that, they had a couple of things that they were still looking into. The public hearing was held, and they followed back with a couple changes, which one would be page 13, the commercial corridor district to be the front yard setback to be 25, which is right in line with all the other front yard setbacks except industrial. A typographical error on page 18. Incorporating the floodplain map through FEMA on page 23. Pages 47 and 48, parking requirements, and that goes along with the table that extends a few more pages beyond that, table 62-611. They requested to rename that table to reflect a maximum parking standards with no minimum parking requirements whatsoever in the city. I'll keep going on with the other. On page 54 was another typographical error. And then page 121 was the Zoning Board of Appeals for the provision to allow a council member to be on the Zoning Board of Appeals. With that, the Planning Commission has recommended approval, final adoption of the ordinance. However, some discussion took place after the fact of the Planning Commission meeting. More research was done by us, staff members, and we feel that parking requirements and completely eliminating all minimums across the city warrants further review. If that's how you interpret how to direction that, but our recommendation will be back to the Planning Commission.
A couple of comments on that, only because I know what's going on, is that the parking requirements were pretty much deleted. So, meaning you could put a convenience store in, not having required parking. which works in some areas probably. Like downtown, we don't have a lot of parking for those buildings, but we provide parking as a city out back. It's a whole different story. And dealing with planning people and zoning parking lots for years, there's just no way that we can allow that. Now, why can't we just change it? That's, let's just amend it. Why don't we just approve everything else and save this out? Here's why we can't do that. We've had a first reading. This is the second reading coming with these revisions. We either have got to say no to the Planning Commission, even though they said this is how you ought to do it. And from experience, what happens then is the Planning Commission quits, usually. That's what's happened before. When the council overrides without having a good reason, it's dangerous. So in this aspect, the best bet is to send it back to the Planning Commission for further review, but knowing that we have many people waiting in line for zoning answers so they can sell buildings to build or not, there's too many things to just delay it for another whole month. So if my recommendation is, and it coincides with Tiger so much, that we send it back then for review of the parking and get more input. I know that DPW director wants input. She's very concerned not to have parking. I mean, this isn't a town where we can do that. But send it back to them for a further recommendation, have them call a special meeting, have the chairman of the Planning Commission call a special meeting. They would meet within the next week or so that by our next council meeting, we can have a second reading and adoption. That would be the cleanest way to do it. If we try to adopt it, and we can adopt it just the way they presented it to us, we can do that. Then we're going to go back and have to do a first reading of an ordinance about the parking, the second reading, and on and on. And I think we'll have a Planning Commission that's not very happy with us. So I think the Planning Commission needs to understand how dangerous this could be, not having parking at, I don't know if anybody looked at that or not, and I didn't go to the meeting. Councilman Christensen was at the meeting, and when he called today, he said he agreed that it should go back to the Planning Commission for further review. He's the person that, and so that's kind of the background, and we can do whatever we want to do. I mean, makes no never mind to me. Like I say, the city council's overrode the Planning Commission before. If you want to do that, or if you want to approve it with no parking, but that certainly wouldn't be something that I would recommend either, because it just doesn't make sense to have a building with no parking. So, start over here. Mr. Scott, did you have something?
Yeah, parking is incredibly important as a discussion in various degrees around the city, and especially now that we're talking about like second floor apartments and things like that. So I'm just all in favor. Let's just send it back and finish it as soon as possible.
Mr. Chin?
So can we amend the motion to send it back, or should we table and direct the manager to send it back to the Planning Commission? What's the best way to do it?
Defeat the motion, and then we can make a motion to send it back to
Okay.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Basically, we think there's some unintended consequences of changing, unintended consequences of changing this. Part of the issue we have is we build, let's say, the senior center. You have a giant parking lot there, and there's never any cars there, right? So there's that issue, and then there's the flip side.
Well, sometimes it's overloaded. I was just there with the manager last week, and it was parking on the street only.
From citizens that live there, or from, where was that from?
The senior center complex?
Yeah, the senior center complex downtown. I drive by it every day.
Oh, no, you're not talking about the senior complex down at First and Cochran. You're talking,
No, I'm talking about Edmond.
you're talking about an apartment complex.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I guess it makes most sense just to send them back. Can I ask you about this part? I'm not sure I'm comprehending what I'm reading here. Is additional recommendations, the planning commission further recommended that the city council direct staff to draft and present a separate ordinance addressing short-term rentals with the city. Is that part of the same thing we're discussing right now?
No, that's just information. The planning commission asked the planning department to look at some things, bring it back to the planning commission.
All right, well,
We had a busy meeting.
I don't think it harms to just send it back. Let's just send it, they'll redo it. I do have one question. Can we make sure this meeting is recorded so I can go back and review that later?
That's a question for the clerk or somebody else. I don't know.
Tonight's meeting?
No. Tonight is, I think, already. I'm talking about the
meeting.
planning commission meeting where they're gonna discuss the parking and some of the issues. Because I wanna make sure I understand it.
I'm sure we can get it recorded. Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
the planning commission meeting is recorded, it's on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
So it's already done then. Great, thank
Wait,
you.
but what about when we send this? Right, is it typically on YouTube? Oh, okay.
Any other discussion?
It's good to know.
Mayor?
I do have a question in terms of, I think it's in this one where we're establishing the zoning board of appeals. Does it talk about it? Okay. And the question I have is, when I first got on council, I asked who was the zoning board of appeals? And the answer was that there wasn't one, so the city council in whole was the zoning board of appeals. So, I mean, I don't know this, I got a memo for the appointment of Mayor Fullerton to the zoning board of appeals, but who else is on this zoning board of appeals?
That mayoral appointment's not going to take place tonight. It was premature.
Okay.
We're going to get the whole group together, and that's a great question. You are correct. It used to be the city. We used to have a board of appeals.
Right, and then,
Then that went away, and then the council became the board of appeals. Now, in taking over the building department, it's required by the building code that we have a building code board of appeals, and then we're going to have an administrative code board of appeals also. And probably what will happen, because it's set up that way, is that the same members will be on both boards. So no matter what appeal we have.
right, yeah,
And
Okay.
obviously, the reason my name was put in there because I have the experience of building, zoning, and planning, so. From the council, that's probably it, but
okay.
I got two over here that might, Mr. Revore, did you have something?
Possibly.
Okay,
So we've reviewed prior drafts of the proposed zoning ordinance. And I can see in the memo delivered to the council, some changes, some amendments. And I think those came out of the planning commission during the night of the planning commission and the public hearing? Okay. And there's been discussion about sending it back to the planning commission for parking amendment?
just the way they sent it here was not something that most of us can live with. It requires 0 parking for any new building.
So I don't know if some language has been drafted to deal with that, but if that is a substantive amendment, I would recommend that be subject to a public hearing as well, because it's not fixing a typographical error like a Scrivener's error or something else that has already been through the public hearing process. So I don't know how substantive sending it back would be. I don't know if it's critical language or usage, or I don't know, because I wasn't at the planning commission. I would just keep in mind that if it is a substantive change, I would recommend that have a public hearing on that substantive change.
And that was the plan, was if we send this back, then it would come back to the council at our next meeting for a public hearing and second reading.
So as long as, if that's the intent of that, then,
That'll take care of the public hearing, right?
okay.
Okay.
If it's substantive, then does it need a first reading? I'm guessing this is going to need.
I think he can answer that question too. It doesn't.
No, I think it's an amendment here. It's not in entirety, but I would, if it's sent back to the planning commission and they have new language, then they're going to send it back to the council. And I suppose the council is going to have that public hearing at that point.
But it would be for a second reading.
Correct.
I was just wondering if it has to go back to a first reading if we're changing.
I don't think so, as long as it's noticed up.
Can we just clarify real quick? Because the ordinance that they have is the one that they passed in the first reading. That's the one that's out there. The planning commission is recommending passing that ordinance with those changes on,
As amended
as amended on the memo from the public hearing.
from the public hearing, correct?
We don't need to hold another public hearing, correct?
Yes, if it's a substantive change, if they're sending it back to the planning commission with a substantive change, then in my opinion, that requires a public hearing. It's not just a scrivener's error, not a typographical thing. It's not something that was just left out inadvertently.
So actually, the planning commission could do that at their special meeting. They could hold a public hearing at that special meeting.
Well, the issue is the language been drafted for that?
The language was deleted rather than drafted. So it's just removing minimums.
I don't know, I didn't study it, chief. I couldn't tell you that. But if you're making a substantive change to what you're recommending, I would recommend a public hearing because otherwise the public didn't have a chance to weigh in on it. Cumbersome at times.
Yep.
But transparent.
So if we leave it alone, we're okay.
They could adopt it as recommended with those changes because those changes were part of the planning commission and the public hearing, okay? If you're going to not adopt it and you're just going to send it back for some rewrites, in my opinion, if it's substantive, that's triggering the public hearing requirement.
I say we just do it and send a note.
I mean, we're gonna have a problem in either way because the state will be mandating park. That's one of the issues that they have on their table is that there is a parking requirement. So,
Well, keep in mind that parking needs to be compliant with the ADA, American with Disabilities Act, in a number of those designated spots
yeah,
in a parking lot.
Yeah, this is an ADA. It has to do with some bills that are in committee now that they forwarded to committee that will mandate certain requirements in your zoning ordinance having to do with, I mean, there's parking, there's size of lots, et cetera, that regardless of what the city does, you're going to have to meet their requirements. And that those bills are moving, they went from, they've gone to committee now. So at some point in time, we're going to have to, if they pass it, if the entire pass it, we're going to have to amend the zoning to meet the state requirements.
And that's not unusual, Councilmember Chin. So in my opinion, from observing here and from what I know of it, you know, if you adopt the ZO as amended, okay, and then, you know, go back to the planning commission for the rewrites of that parking, but they're going to have to go through that process with an amendment to it, as they normally would. Language sent to the council, intro on that, back to for the public hearing, and then back for the adoption. But you'd only be doing that section.
So, go ahead.
I would personally like to make a motion that we,
We are going to motion.
Motion on the floor.
well, I make an amendment to that. Basically, motion is what I'm saying. And I'm just kind of see what you think about that. And just recommending that we send it back to them. And we just add with that we direct the city manager to confirm with the attorney what process needs to be made based on whatever they come up with at that hearing, whether it's substantive or not. I'm open to hearing what other idea you have, but it probably needs to go back. We know it needs to go back, and if it has to go through an extra public hearing, I think it's fine. That's what we do in order to meet the transparency requirement. Even though most people won't care and nobody will probably show up. So let's just do it right.
I think we're getting stuck on one little part of the entire zoning ordinance, but hey, you know, everything's important in here. But I'm curious as to, because this is the second reading and potential adoption of, what has been the public outlook? I didn't make it to the planning commission meeting, unfortunately. Things have been busy. I see a lot of people not here today to talk to us on their thoughts to come before or after. So the biggest problem I see, or opportunity as you would, is that this is going to impact the people and those people that are going to have to conform with the ordinances that change. So I'm asking Chief Fullerton, what has been the public take so far, those that have weighed in one way or the other? We know that the Planning Commission's been involved in it quite a bit. We know that there have been people here who've been involved, but like this parking requirement, I believe there's some state statutes that have a far reach than what this ordinance is, that will be the law, no matter whether we say that you don't have to have a ADA compliant parking space or not. Based on state law, you do. So therefore, it's going to happen. They're going to have a place that people with disabilities can access their new building. And then if they don't allow any parking and people just walk from miles to come to this place, then I guess that's follows this ordinance currently. But on other things within this ordinance, have the public weighing in?
No, the public hearing, there was no public present nor any comments.
I think that problem right there is much larger than this parking that we're talking about. Because although we want to make sure that we're catering to the future businesses of the city, this ordinance applies to everyone within the city on a daily, not just those businesses that are hoping to come here. Not that I don't want to see those businesses come here. So if we can get to the point where I can ask other questions about the ordinance without pushing the parking to the side, please let me know when that time comes.
Mr. Revore, do you have any, now you see what we're looking to do? It doesn't look like there's any way that the city can help people out that are waiting for this ordinance to be changed?
Right now, your current ordinance is in place. That's not been repealed. I mean, you have the law of how you're going to live with it, okay? If that's not workable for some potential, that's unfortunate. The question I have, and maybe it's for Chief Fullerton, is he's got a recommendation here to adopt what's here, but keep in mind, when you do that, you're taking out your current ordinance, so you're not going to have that parking aspect. So in my opinion, if that parking aspect is substantive, you're doing an amendment to what you're going to enact tonight if you adopt this. I don't know what the motion is on the floor, and I apologize for not having that kind of a memory here. I kind of got lost with some of the discussion and the amendment
Motion is
to it.
to approve the resolution in the second reading.
Okay, so the motion is to improve what you have, but continue, when you do that, it takes out your current ZO. So if this ordinance is lacking, you can't rely on what you presently have. So I don't know.
May I clarify that real quick? You're close to spot on. I don't recommend that the council approve the second reading of this ordinance.
Okay.
I recommend that it goes back to Planning Commission because, young as I am, I've witnessed, even 2 years ago when we get involved with the Planning Commission, and Justin, you can attest to this, but the Planning Commission felt underused sometimes because the council could just override them. That's where that falls back to. With that, I would recommend when we get to the Planning Commission back to revisit this, is that they absolutely leave it 100% alone. Our consultant that we used put a lot of information into this, more modern information for that matter, and actually lowered some of the standards, the parking minimums for that matter, but it also put in a maximum in there, where this Planning Commission did feel that the maximums were warranted so that we don't have large parking lots that are underutilized for that matter. But the Planning Commission at the last meeting went against the consultant, and I don't agree with that. So I would recommend that they leave it alone because we're at agreeance that it was a really good order for that matter under the current version that you have in front of you as proposed.
So is your recommendation to adopt this ZO as amended per your memo? Or what is the motion?
Well, the motion would be to adopt the ordinance with the I mean, that's what's presented was adopting, taking the second reading and adopting with the amendments recommended by the Planning Commission at their meeting last week when they held the public hearing. I should tell you that, being present as well is that the original parking requirement, very, very, forward-thinking in not having these massive lots. I mean, they really cut down on that. But there was also language that had required parking and at a bare minimum. This is what you have to have in certain. But that language was removed for no parking, and that's really what the issue is here is, and again, the required parking that was in the ordinance was just bare minimum. I mean, just absolutely, maybe if you got, 4 apartment units, you gotta have at least 4 spots, something that basic. So that was stripped of that. And so, and again, when the public hearing was presented, they were still working on the required parking. The language and recommendation to go to 0 came as a result following the public hearing. So just giving you context for it, but the motion in front of you is to adopt with the recommended changes that came out from the Public Commission last year.
Mr. Newman.
Call the question.
Mr. Newman hasn't spoken yet. Go ahead, Mr. Newman.
I've just, Attorney Revore, kind of hit on the ADA. I was kind of waiting my turn to bring that up. Being a federal statute, it dictates that you have to have so many handicap parking spots per regular parking spots. And that's a federal document. And dealing with, CFRs and all of that, career, NFPA standards, all of the other standards that are out there, agencies can make them more strict, but they can't make them more lenient. So in this reading of taking parking spots away is making that less restrictive in my, thought process, which is going to remove the requirement for ADA compliant spaces in businesses and other areas there that, are trying to build or, remodel, renovate, whatever they're doing, So I don't know if they've, have looked at that, and being that it's, these higher statutes are governing over this and.
Just a real quick answer to help out there. ADA doesn't actually dictate parking spaces, but once the parking spaces are there, then they dictate what can be handicapped. So ADA doesn't say that you have to have certain amount of parking. They just say certain amount have to be ADA compliant based on the numbers that are there. So again, you're right on the part that I'm thinking about. Again, if we don't require parking, they don't have to be ADA compliant. But that's going to make it harder for handicap and elderly people to utilize businesses. So that's what I want to have that discussion more with the Planning Commission because, again, that information wasn't brought out at the appropriate time.
Okay, the question's been the question's been called for, and the motion on the table, moved and seconded, to approve the ordinance as we received it back. So if you vote in favor of it, it's going to be that we're going to take this new ordinance and we're going to get rid of the one we have. If you vote against it, then we'll have to decide what we do after that. Everybody clear on that?
I am clear on that. However, I did ask if I had an opportunity to ask a question related to the ordinance as written prior to the calling of the question. I didn't have that opportunity, so just so that's stated on the record.
Okay, question's been called.
What has the question been called?
Question means that he's calling for the vote. He's calling for an end of discussion.
Can one member end discussion?
And I can sense that we need to vote to move on. I mean, sitting here, I can see we're not getting anywhere. So we're going to vote.
One member can stop discussion.
Correct.
Yeah, if the chair agrees with him.
How about you just not agree with him so I can ask a follow-up question and Mr. Brummer can get his question?
We're gonna vote on the motion. So all those in favor of the motion to approve the ordinance?
Point of order?
Go ahead, what's the point of order?
I want to understand where this is at in Robert's rules on how you can just call the vote without having additional discussion.
We can take a vote on whether we want to vote on the question, and the vote will probably be that we want to vote on it. Should we take that vote?
Yes, I'm calling
Okay.
a roll call vote.
All those in favor of calling the question, raise your hand. 4. All those against calling the question, raise your hand. 2. We will call the question. All those in favor of approving this ordinance as it's been presented to us, we'll do a roll call vote.
Fullerton,
Yes, no. No. I wanted to make sure. The
no.
answer is no.
Okay, let me start over. Fullerton,
No.
Chin,
No.
Newman,
No.
Rodriguez,
No.
Christensen. He's not here. Scott,
No.
Brummett.
No.
Okay, so we're stuck with our old ordinance. We're stuck with a recommendation from the planning commission that we did not agree with, apparently. So now we need to, and it may take longer than what we anticipated. We were trying to do it in a hurried aspect, but I assume it's going to take some time to go back to them, get some wording, have a public hearing in front of the planning commission again. And I don't know, Tiger, how many people you think are involved in waiting? But we can use the old ordinance.
It's just a very fun time to explain all this to people, but we have probably 5 different individuals that are waiting for sales of their property or so on. We have site plans that are waiting to be sent in, but we're okay.
It is what it is. So we want to send it back to the planning commission for further review. How do you want to make the motion? And how quick do you want them to act?
I make a motion that we send the ordinance back to the planning commission for a review and revision regarding parking
Is there a second?
or other matters that may need further review.
Second the motion.
Any discussion on sending to the planning commission? Mr. Room.
Mr. Mayor, who amongst these that sit on this council are part of the representation of the council to the planning commission and the zoning ordinance? I know we have,
Councilman Christensen is on.
is that our only person? I really think that there's some things there in what I've read of the zoning ordinance, the way that it's written, that it went way back before some changes that were positive to some of the aspects of the zoning. There were some amendments made some years ago, and this word is go back to before that even. In that particular aspect, and with very little of the public input, as I'm understanding it. I guess the question I have is, we need more public input to this. The public is just as impacted by this ordinance as those businesses that are seeking to come here. And I also have questions as to what is it that we are restricting to which businesses? And does all of this get fixed just by adopting this ordinance? Are all of those businesses happy? And the reason they can't be here is because our ordinance currently doesn't allow, but this would magically fix all those problems, but potentially create some other that the public are unaware of. Those are questions that I have to all those that are listening, including those on this council. So that's my discussion on the matter.
Anything else? We'll proceed to vote then on sending this back to the planning commission for review of parking requirements. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Done. Now we have Resolution 2026-26 to introduce the ordinance City of Charlotte State Construction Code. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? This is mainly starting the process to get the building department back under the control of the City of Charlotte.
Mayor,
Mr. Rouleau.
the motion, I believe, should be approved, the resolution number 2026-02. Am I correct, Chief Fullerton? To set the public hearing for June 8th?
Okay, I don't have that copy of the resolution.
The resolution's in your packet, Mayor. if you look at the packet, there's a staff report, then there's the ordinance itself, and then the resolution followed the ordinance, but I can certainly pass my copies down to you as well. It was a very, very long packet, by the way.
Yeah.
So we need to ask Mr. Chin, who made the motion.
Friendly amendment.
What?
Friendly amendment, add,
That you want to
yeah,
make it sound just like that, or that resolution?
yep.
There. How's that, Mr. Scott? Do you approve that too?
I approve that.
So, and I'm not going to read it all. The motion is to approve the resolution as printed by the clerk in getting the City of Sherlock State Construction Code Ordinance put into the books.
Resolution number R 2026-26 for the minutes.
2026
It's 26.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried.
Next, you should have in your packet,
Now we got another resolution.
you have another resolution, and that's to introduce ordinance number 2026-03, and that's an amendment to Chapter 2 Administration, and set the public hearing for June 8th as well. So I think the motion should be to approve resolution number R 2026-27 to introduce ordinance number 2026-03.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second to approve resolution number R 2026-27 and ordinance 2026-03. Any discussion?
This is the will be the recreation of the zoning board of appeals. Am I understanding that?
Administrative.
It does not do the recreation of the ZBA. It is the other, it's the other appeals boards, like your construction board, things like that. And in the ordinance, those other boards are, for lack of a better term, itemized or listed the functions under B. You've got amendment to the code, section 2, and as you work down, you can see the administrative appeals boards. The reason why the zoning board of appeals is not listed in there is because currently, my memory is that the city charter designates, or if not the city charter, but the city council is designated as the zoning board of appeals. And it's always been my advice to have a different zoning board of appeals other than the governing body. But this particular ordinance does not establish that ZBA at this time.
Section 2, letter E, members of the zoning board of appeals may be appointed by serve concurrently on the administrative appeals board, provided that each board shall act independently within its respective authority.
We clarify,
Names.
can I clarify then, real quick?
Sure.
So this is, again, like Attorney Rivera said, this is the Administration Appeals Board. However, the ZBA is being created and established separately, other than the city council, through the zoning ordinance. That's going to take a back seat for a second because obvious reasons, just to vote a few minutes ago. This is completely separate, but as it was discussed earlier, most likely the same members will be part of the same boards, but because of the Zoning Enabling Act, the boards have to work independently, completely separate boards. This one, Administrative Appeals Board, will handle construction code and trade permits, fire code enforcement, international property maintenance code, rental housing regulations, utility enforcement actions, as well as cannabis license and regulatory decisions. But for the construction code, we have to have a appointed board of appeals for construction code. We're just covering everything under one appeals board, separate than the ZBA.
We're still going to have two boards.
I just want to know how the members are chosen for this board that isn't going to exist because of the fact that we haven't reinstated another zoning ordinance yet.
They're appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the council, both boards.
Got it.
Remember, we're not doing anything but setting a public hearing.
Sure.
So we still have time to read it and talk about it, and
Understood.
you're just setting a public hearing, is all we're really doing tonight. Okay? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Resolution 2026-28 to appoint David M. Revore as counsel to prosecute ordinance violations.
So moved.
Second.
Is there information from the attorney that would like to speak about that?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. So law enforcement agencies in Michigan have a number of statutes and licensing and administrative bodies that they have to work within. And one of them is the state of Michigan, LARA, and the administrative rules for the use of LEAN, Law Enforcement Information Network material. And that's like criminal histories, cars, VIN numbers, registrations, things like that. Your city charter has your city attorney also being your city prosecutor. And every now and then, we say the LEAN rules change, right? And so what we're experiencing in our firm, we are the named city attorneys in a number of cities, and also the named prosecutor for a number of cities. So what we do in part is your general counsel work, right? Your civil work, your buildings, things like that, code enforcement that's not criminal. Your police department, they investigate crimes. If it's a felony, it goes to the county prosecutor. Certain misdemeanors go to the county prosecutor. Other types of misdemeanors we handle as your prosecutor. And so LEAN, the state of Michigan, has adopted some more rules. And for access, our access to criminal records and LEAN work, we have to be essentially appointed. Now, we have a contract that says we're your prosecutor, and we certainly could have sent that off to the state of Michigan. But what we've done is the resolution that's in front of you, and I don't have the resolution number, and I'm going to have to rely on Clerk Smith for that. But what that does is that says, okay, we're your general counsel and your prosecutor who are hereby authorized to prosecute these things. And this is what we've been in consultation with the LEAN field people, the administrators, state of Michigan officials. And so the resolution in front of you is one that we have for a fair number of jurisdictions. I'm not going to reveal that to the public, but let's just say it's more than 5 and just slightly less than 10. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to clean up all the paperwork for all of our departments and give, you know, the LEAN folks not one email, but numerous emails with numerous documents. And you can see attached to that is a service agreement that we did with the city, and your police chief can authorize that type of a thing. And so we have to assume certain compliance with state and federal law. Access to criminal histories has become more scrutinized over the last few years. All of the members of my firm, including myself, my staff attorneys, and my clerks and secretaries who handle the prosecution portion of your contract, all go through and become certified under CJIS policies with training. That used to be required every 2 years. Now it's required every year. And so all of our certifications are updated. Service agreements are with every department that we have. And so we're asking that the council obviously approve the resolution. We can get that filled out. We can complete part of the packets that need to go to the state. And again, this is in part with their updating of the LEAN rules.
The resolution is 2026-28. Mr. Chin.
The question I have is in terms of the fact that our contract is with the firm, McGinty, da-da-da-da-da. So this is designating yourself as the only person for this. Why not name the practice right now? Because what happens if you leave to, let's start your own firm, and so what happens then?
You can see under the therefore on page 1B, attorneys associated therewith are further authorized to provide additional legal counsel and services in the event of ... or my absence. So this would continue. Now, if I leave the firm, yes, you're going to have to go through another resolution to do that. But this is what we're following with the advice from Lean. You just can't have a firm, you got to have a body in there.
So we're allowed to then rename somebody from the firm in the case that you leave.
Right. So when I retire,
Mhm.
I'll give you plenty of notice of all the things you need to change
Okay.
or leave.
Any other discussion? And this isn't a hearing, this is actual resolution. If we pass it, it's done. All those in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Code enforcement and fire inspector vehicle purchase. Do you guys want to make a presentation first, or do you want a motion to discuss it? We can do it either way.
It's just pretty much laid out in the memo, the need for the vehicles. So if you guys got any questions, we'll be willing to answer them tonight.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay?
Question that, yep, the question I have is, why this size of vehicle? Why do we need something this big?
Trailblazer is the cheapest vehicle in the My Deal. They don't sell cars anymore through the My Deal. The Trailblazer is the smallest vehicle and the cheapest one. It's the same ones that DPW just took delivery of 3 weeks ago. So that's the reason for that vehicle choice.
Okay, so they don't have a lot of equipment they have to carry around, or?
No, they take their laptop with them and they have a printer inside the vehicle.
Okay. So outside of My Deal, there isn't any vehicles that we could buy that are smaller, if the fact that you're only buying it because it's a My Deal situation?
No, that's not true. We're only buying it because of My Deal. I don't think we can purchase a brand-new 2026 vehicle for under $22,000 unless we use this My Deal.
Okay.
Any other questions? Mr. Rummett?
Where do you lay out, and maybe it's somewhere already, it's just a question that's presented based on the memo, how the handling of the sale and the repurchase in 5 years? Is that what I understand based on the memo? Your
Yes.
desire is to,
3 to 5
31.
years, while the value of the vehicle is still high,
yes,
we would sell it to recoup most of the cost of the purchase.
okay. And so, like I say, we talk about purchase agreements and purchase policies quite often, but we don't quite often talk about sale and how we sell things. So,
It briefly touches on selling and the purchasing policy. So when staff determines that something needs to be sold, they need to seek approval from the city manager and either disposition it through a different department within the city or sell it at an auction, depending on the manager's desire at that time.
okay. Like I said, that's new to me, so how it's handled when it goes to sell, simply basically for the transparency of those that ask these questions in other capacities than myself. So thank you for clarifying.
Just one further thing with acquiring used vehicles, and again, it's a great use for like the old police vehicles, and that's what we've been using for the code enforcement and rental inspector. However, we're spending $3,000, $4,000, if not $5,000 a year in maintenance. So you can see the math here is why this is adding up to be a better and more economical thing to do.
Mr. Rodriguez?
I'm notorious for voting against vehicles, as you all know. What is the expected sort of resale value on vehicles right now? Do we have like a percentage of what we expect to sell them for in 5 years?
No, I can't predict the market for that, but I would expect we recoup 70 to 75% of the cost of the vehicle during the resale process.
Okay. And these cars are basically just, they're not going to be used for, I don't know, any kind of labor kind of project, just mostly for driving around.
Driving around town, these cars will usually be about 15 to 25 hours a week driving around town and to conferences and trainings.
Thank you.
Anything else? So they're actually a Tahoe, but they're not like the police Tahoes.
No, they're way smaller than that.
They're a lot smaller.
Mm,
And so that's why they're so cheap, because the normal Tahoes would be, that the police get around 50,000, as I remember. So these are relatively cheap. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now good thing we got the attorney here tonight. Go back to him. Camp Francis update.
You let it build up on me. No, yeah, Camp Francis update. We've had several meetings with Jeff Christensen had participated in some. This falls under Stephanie Whitney's directorship, Camp Francis. Numerous meetings with her and Susie DeBeck. And what we've done is we've looked at the current bylaws that are in effect, and they had some proposed changes, and we did too. We looked at some statutory things. And so I think we're at a place now where some draft bylaws proposed, completed anyway, will be presented to the Camp Francis board, I think tomorrow night, that's my understanding. And then we have a follow-up meeting with Camp Francis personnel officials on Wednesday to see if they have any other changes. There's some other discussion is that they want to continue to rent the property. And so we're looking at some of those governance documents and rental agreements. So the goal is complete the bylaws and then, get the parties to agree to those and then work on if they're going to continue to rent the property. And again, in my opinion, this is going to be a question for council. They have been. They want to continue to do so. And by doing so, I would recommend an agreement to spell out the terms of that and the rules for rental of that. I'd say that those will need to be developed. Obviously, we've done that kind of work and would do that on behalf of the council working with Camp Francis. But we decided to try to do this incrementally. It was kind of back and forth whether or not they're going to continue to rent the property, and it seems the information is that they want to. So the bylaws are, in my opinion, complete for their consideration. And we'll find out on Wednesday if they want to change the bylaws. If they don't, I anticipate those coming before the council sooner than later. But keep in mind, if the rental of the property is going to take place, I'm going to recommend, those types of terms and conditions to do so.
Could you expand, rental of the property, renting it to other people or them renting it from us, or what are you talking about?
Well, right now, this organization exists, and the city council is the member of it, right? So according to bylaws that are in effect, you can make those kind of decisions. The membership to vote on, to the, I want to say the nonprofit. The nonprofit has governance over it, but you're the member of the nonprofit. So it's kind of an interesting setup. My understanding is that facility has been rented for educational and recreational purposes since it's came into the city's possession, and they want to continue to do so. But we've not located, in my opinion, appropriate paperwork to do that. And so the goal was to update, revise, clean up, if you will, the bylaws. And then if it's going to continue to be a rental property for those educational, recreational type of purposes, what's the parameters of that? And in their agreement, service agreement between the city and Camp Francis for the administration of Camp Francis, the property, because the city is the owner of the property. Okay?
Yep.
So that's just the update. We're developing things incrementally, and we'll see what Camp Francis comes back with, any changes for the proposed bylaws. And again, those have to be approved by the council, being the member of Camp Francis, so they could change again. But we've done some, what I call some good revision work that address some of the liability issues that we were concerned with that were out there. It's not a complete project yet.
Very basic question. Is Camp Francis considered a short-term rental, like an Airbnb? Or because,
No, and I hope not.
well, right, and that is a thing we have to delineate, right? That it, yeah.
Right. So it's got that history and that legacy of what it was, used for and intended to be used for. So.
Mr. Newman?
I just looked at the meeting minutes for tomorrow night's meeting, and the bylaws are on the discussion docket.
So more to come from that.
Yep.
City manager purchasing policy.
Just to follow up from our last meeting, if you remember, the issues seemed to come up regarding, I'm not going to say pre-qualifications, but Ms. Whitney and I agreed to accept proposals and send them out to 6 firms. And while you can imply that there is some conditions in our purchasing policy that reference pre-qualifications, I think I'm asking council if you want to make that more explicit. I do think the department heads and city manager would be the ones to do so. And I think at the end of the day, we want something that's efficient, transparent, competitive process. We can achieve that. But also, having been on the other end of as a consultant, sometimes, I don't want to waste their time if we're not going to give them consideration. Putting proposals together is timely. And so we know in a lot of cases who these firms are that are probably the right fit for us to be considered. I always look anywhere from 4 to 6 firms if we're going to do a pre-qualification. And at that point in time, one, you've got firms that are capable of performing the work, and 2, having a process where you have competitive proposals and bids submitted. I think on the administrative end, what things have been changing somewhat here since just in my short tenure is, the clerk is now an administrator with BidNet, prefer everything to go through that process, have it go to the clerk, and that way she's the only one that touches it until the due date for opening the bids and or proposals. So I think that's more of an administrative item, but for clarity's purposes, do you want to add that the manager and the department head have the discretion to, go to establish a pre-qualification process?
Council, he's asking questions.
Well, I think the language in the policy is clear in terms of the fact that it does say the city manager and or department head can select vendors to bid. The thing that I want to make sure of is the fact that even in that process, that there's opportunity for vendors to say, I can do this, and present to the manager or the department head that they're capable of doing the work. Now it's up to you to determine whether or not they're qualified or not. At the state, we either call them 1-step or 2-step bids, and a 2-step would require pre-qualification of the bidders, and then from there, bids are received and handled, in the fashion that's laid out already by the city clerk. So I'm not sure that we do need to have any more clarification, and the policy addresses the fact that you can pre-authorize or pre-approve vendors. The only thing that I want to make sure of is, of course, that the second part of the policy says if it's over 20,000, that you'll have bids submitted, open and public and read, and that procedure is followed.
I think, isn't it sealed bids when it's over 20? Yeah. That's the key word.
Mm-hmm. And I will, I do harp on the department heads. It's a good policy, just follow it. But I think the clarity of it is that, particularly with certain proposals, you have there's a lot of firms. I mean, there were 6 of them that put proposals in, and we knew who they were. But I sometimes to drag out the processes, and much what happens with the state is that you start with a pre-qualification, and then from there. But you may get as many as 20 firms that put that in there, and for them to take the time and effort. And I think, having done this for quite a while, I usually have a pretty good idea which firms are going to be capable of performing the work that would be suitable for a community of our size and that capability. So, on the other hand, just maybe going forward, here's council, give me your blessing that this is what we're going to do, and the bids will go into the clerk, and we'll bring it back to you for approval at a later point in time. But if you don't want to amend the purchasing policy, that's perfectly fine. We'll just understand internally that we'll follow that process. So, is that good?
Council wish to change anything? Mr. Rumlet?
Just from the simple standpoint of discussion, I think that the purchasing policy I just looked over it, and Mr. Daly, the mention of the sale of items, that's spelled out clearly there too. But it seems like it's been almost every meeting that I've sat in that there's been some contestant of the actual purchasing policy. So if it's that good, well, it's that good. And if it's not, well, then let's fix it right now. I do believe that as fuel costs increase, as Ms. Whitney pointed out at the last meeting, things are going to get more expensive. And so we can sit and wait and open up sealed bids because all of a sudden now we're at 22,000 in order to do that. Or we may have to increase that ceiling height. It may be 30. Maybe that number needs to change today so that at least the staff can do their job without us holding our thumb on every decision, because that's what has gotten us into the positions we've been in the past. And that's just as transparent as it gets. The problems are we're trying to do the jobs that we've got people in place to do, and now we're looking for new people to do those jobs. So when it comes to the purchasing policy, as it states too, it states how the credit card's supposed to be handled. Credit card purchases can't exceed the purchase amount in the purchasing policy. It also states all the other rules and regulations. The only questions right now at hand are the large purchases that occasionally have to occur, and then secondly, things like that, which I don't even believe were a direct relation when it came to the 6 firms that were brought up at the last meeting. All we're asking is, who's willing to bid on the job that needs to be done? Well, these 6 companies are able to do the job. They're willing to bid on the job. This is what they need in order to actually move forward the engineering costs and all. And some of them were 3 times as much as the other one. But I haven't a clue as a council member what actually is an engineering firm and how much they should charge, so I have to trust staff to make that decision. But that was brought up at the last meeting related to the purchasing policy and following it and pre-qualifications. But there isn't anything really stated in the purchasing policy for pre-qualifications. So at least my thoughts are, maybe we need to draft that up. Maybe we need to have a pre-qualification list of people that we know that our staff members have good relationship with, or our city manager, that allow for us to just say, these companies care about Charlotte and want to do good work here. These companies, we can't stand their outcome because we've seen their work and we don't want them, so therefore they're not on our pre-qualified list. And it would streamline things quite a bit, in my opinion. So that's my discussion on the matter. I think there's maybe some fine tuning. Pre-qualifications, potentially raising that to 30 grand.
Mr. Rodriguez?
All right, I want to make sure I lock in what the issue is here. Because if we leave the same, then we will still have more meetings where we have it brought up every single time. Like, we're still gonna have an issue if we leave the same. So having pre-qualified people to do certain jobs is of course important. I think what Mr. Chin is bringing up, that even if you had a pre-qualified list, the policy would still require sending out to bid. And I'm understanding Mr. Pastu saying is that, he knows the top companies who do this and can reach out to them and get bids directly from them. And it slows down the process if we go through this whole sealed bid process. It just adds to and bogs down the administration. Is that what I'm hearing correctly, or am I missing something there?
Well, there's just some of that is if you do a 2-step process, it does slow things down, and you probably come to the same conclusion as to who's going to be pre-qualified to begin with. The other thing with it is I'm always, these consultants, spend a lot of time putting information together, and if you're not going to take it seriously, don't waste their time. I feel strongly that way. I've been on the other side of it, where you put a lot of time and effort into a proposal, only to realize, they weren't gonna look at it and take it seriously anyway. So, the firm, we know in a lot of cases, but there's gonna be instances where we don't know. And that's where the two-step pre-qualification process will make sense. It's just, and I'll tell you, there's some projects, that Ms. Whitney has out there where, if you do something major with the wastewater plant, trust me, we're gonna be doing a pre-qualification, because that's not gonna be a small undertaking if she gets the grant. That's a big deal, and some of the firms that we just presented wouldn't be capable of doing it. You'll probably have a national firm that would be, and that's, so there's a judgment that we have to make with it. And so, every project's gonna be a little bit different, but if you just, I guess I'm trying to say is, if the manager and the department have pretty good idea what the approach is to get, one, a process where it's efficient, is transparent, and you have a competitive process at the end of the day with a vendor that can do the work. That's really what I think we all want.
Yeah. So, okay, I think I'm understanding further here. I think, so with our previous city manager, there was something I ended up telling him later that he didn't have information before, and that is, there's been some instances where, with whatever, previous managers or staff or whatever, that we thought we had a best price. We forced it to go to bid. And we felt like after changing the policy, we found some things that were like, oh, wow, we found other companies that we either didn't know of or haven't used before. And I think that would be the argument Mr. Chid would make, is that perhaps there are new companies or new people with good reputation and the qualifications that might do it at a lower price. And, so I'm just wondering, for me, I would like to see something in the policy that somehow says, hey, listen, for these things, we would like to pre-qualify groups and have the council pre-qualify these groups based on our recommendations for these type of projects in advance. Is that something that could happen, or you think it's kind of too difficult to predict what kind of things you might need?
Each project's gonna be different. I think the simplest thing is just, I'll put agenda item, I won't, but I think going forward, just say we are gonna do a pre-qualification that the manager and the department head have agreed upon. Here's the firms that we're gonna solicit proposals because we feel they're the right and capable of doing it. But there's gonna be instances where we don't know who's really the qualified. And I use the example of, you get the wastewater treatment plant grant. I'm gonna tell you, it's not just a run-of-the-mill underground engineering firm that does survey work, and this is, highly technical skills, and it's probably going to be more of a national firm. It's going to be a series of national firms bidding on the work. So it depends on the project.
Yeah, and the other factor involved is the fact, are they available?
That's true.
So you run into that. You can if you pre-qualify list and start getting the detail. What I'm saying is, let the city manager and department head figure out the pre-qualification instead of coming back, back to council for it, et cetera. Because again, at the time of when your project is ready to go, and we're just talking, one type of project, but anything like that, it's really, you have to go out to the marketplace and see, okay, who can not only do this, but who's available to do it. And then all I'm saying is that if it's over 20 grand, then bid it and let the bids come in, and boom, that really, the same thing as if you ask them to quote, bidding is not adding that much time to the process at all. So, I don't want to handcuff the manager by saying we have to approve what you're saying, the pre-qualification. So,
Okay, so what I heard was that if we follow the policy and anything over 20,000 is sealed bid opened by the clerk at a certain time, which is how it always was for a long time. Worked very well, but we've been getting away from that. So we shouldn't see anything here at the council level over 20,000 that's not a sealed bid with a tally of who bid, and am I getting it right?
You know, and the manager still has authority for emergencies.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, that's a given, so,
We shouldn't have any of those bids coming that are over 20,000.
right.
That aren't sealed bids. And that would seem like it would solve, we'd leave the purchasing policy the way it is until we found that the number was too low, then we could change it. But at this point in time, nobody's asking for that.
One last thing, though, as we're discussing the purchasing policy, though, when it comes to the sole source aspect, because I know there are a few things within the city, and it goes back to what you mentioned. The one that seems to be coming up on a regular is the wastewater treatment plant. There's a lot of things there that you can't find anywhere else. And for those that are listening, anyone else who doesn't know, sure, you can buy it from, you name it, XYZ, through so-and-so and pay 3 times as much or whatever the markup is. But if that's the place it has to be acquired from, here again, we have this discussion each time that the particular chemicals are trying to be obtained. If the market price is what it is and you're cutting out all the middlemen that you can, that is the cost. But then we have a discussion about it, and we have some people who are upset because it costs more than set amount of money. But if you don't have that stuff, bad things happen. Or it doesn't work like it's supposed to. And if you don't buy it at the proper time, you pay more money. I know we'll be talking about it real soon, about the salt purchase. It's one of those things. It just costs what it is, and you can only get it so many places, and 3 different people sell it for the same place. So just making it clear.
So there's no amendments to the purchasing policy that anybody wants to make? Just leave it as is, and we'll expect the bids to come in. Okay? End of discussion? We don't have any mayoral appointments. Those will come later. Brings us to public comment, the last public comment of the meeting. Anybody like to come forward and speak for their 5 minutes or get online? No one from the audience? And anybody online?
Nope. Oh, yep, Jody just put her hand up. I think she can talk now. She should be able to respond.
Go ahead, Jody.
Okay, I just wanted to say that the last few meetings, we have been inundated with these grants that everybody's trying for. And this is what we asked about, 2 years ago? It's making a huge difference, and I think it's going to get us where we need to be. And I want to thank all the people that have put their mind into looking for these and trying to get these grants. I know it started out big time in the fire department. And I mean, I think it is the way of the world now because of the way taxes are and the inability for people to want to raise taxes for whatever reason, whether it be income levels or they're just mad. So I just want to say thank you. You're paying attention. You're getting the grants. You're going after what's out there. And I think it's helping us a lot. So thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comment. No one else?
Nope.
Closed public comment. Staff comments.
Just one last thing. It was buried in the memo for the zoning ordinance, but Planning Commission did make a recommendation. It came from a larger discussion of short-term rentals, the common, what today's Airbnb would be. That's not something that would normally be handled directly in a zoning ordinance. It'd be a standalone ordinance. So that's why I was kind of back to you guys. We'll look into it over time, but I'll be honest, it's not a high priority right this moment. The building department and everything else is. I don't know of too many current Airbnbs that are out there, but supposedly we do have some. So if the city council feels that it's a necessity right now, just got to give the city manager direction and we'll follow that.
Mr. Roderick, go ahead.
I want to say that, I think there may be in the near future a need in the area for short-term rentals or Airbnb kind of like things. And and, mother-in-law suites or whatnot, especially with everything happening out at Crandall and people who may be coming to the area. It'd be really nice if they could stay in Charlotte while they're here, not stay other places. So I would be curious to see, what that would look like to have a policy around those things.
If I may, just if it's a council's pleasure, I'd probably go back to the consultant you worked with, John Icoangeli, with Beckett Rader, put together a draft ordinance that we could run through the planning commission and have them work on that and ultimately bring it back to council at some point. So he's probably done a few of these in some of his other communities.
I like it.
Okay. No other staff comments? Mayor and council, we got to start over on this side tonight.
Just thanks again to the folks in the audience here and the ones that are online and department heads and all the information that was provided tonight.
This is me asking you all out there who are going to be pleased with the ordinance when it's written, and I'll be happy with everything that came out, or otherwise to express your thoughts on the matter, because it's not that there's issues, but you'll find issue, I'm sure. We've had a number of different conditional uses over the years, pushing well over 10 years of doing this, being in the planning commission for as long as I had, multiple people coming with different things that they wanted to address, and namely, and on the record, is the height of the buildings. As it's stated in the zoning ordinance that was presented tonight, it's about as clear as it was when I tried to build my pole barn that had to end up shorter than what I had envisioned. And at that time, we had the building department within the city. It was a different time. The building ended up 2 foot shorter and a lot of money thrown away. We can fix this now for those that want to have their buildings the way they are able to be built today, because the ordinance was changed. Some smarter people than I were there and had the right places to get questions answered, and ended up with the building that I had envisioned. And I think there are many other people who would like the same type of thing. So those are some small things that will be overlooked with what was presented tonight, and many people may have other ideas. But if you don't come out to the public hearings and you don't make it known, then we end up having to have conditional uses. And then we have people who wish that they could do what they wish they could do and are held up in that. But at the same time, we also have those other businesses who are restricted in their ability to move into the community, bringing jobs and all those other opportunities that come with themselves. So being engaged in finding those solutions for all, I think, is something that is actually much more important on the public end of things than just this council alone. It's those people who tend to come out when things aren't exactly the way they hope they would be, but aren't there leading up to that. So that's my call to action for all of those. I appreciate the opportunity to be engaged with all the people here at this bench and be able to have constructive decisions made and conversation that, although it takes sometimes a little bit longer, are going to benefit everyone who isn't even born today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody who put all the effort into today's material. There were 245 pages or so. A lot of that was just planning, but that was people's work, and that was never lost on me while I was reading all of it. And I appreciated the detail. I think about housing all the time, and what I saw there was nothing stopping us as far as I could tell. So thank you for that. My office hours are 10 noon on Tuesdays at Phase. Thank you for coming.
Mr. Chen?
Starting tomorrow, I'll be a couple days at a major housing conference held in Lansing. Get an opportunity, another opportunity to mingle with developers and what have you. It's one of the bigger housing focused conferences that are held in the state. I briefly mentioned this, but I do need to bring to your attention that the property tax reform package has gotten a committee hearing, and that is where the proposal, in short, is to eliminate all property taxes and replace it with a service sales tax. The estimates are that they'll fall short of getting all the money that they lose in the property tax. So if this passes, there'll be far less money for, the cities and townships, et cetera, to receive. And then the other one is the zoning preemption bill. They've been talking about it, and that has received a committee hearing. These are steps before they actually go to vote by the full legislature. That's the one that very specifically, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different bills that talk about land, lot size, study requirements, dwelling sizes, parking requirements, how fast you have to take care of things, setback requirements, duplexes, new rules for that, as well as for mobile homes. So that's taken another step towards that. The other thing that I wanted to mention was that, we have this process for grants that, to me, is kind of difficult at times because of the mere fact that we might get notification just a week before it's due and those types of things from that standpoint. And some of the opportunities that we miss are because they have to come to the council first. I would like to think that we could develop a policy where if a grant does not require any funding up to $20,000 or whatever amount, that we allow the city manager to go ahead and apply for those grants immediately so that we don't lose out. I know, was it 2 weeks ago, I got one from the Senator Peters that had like 2 weeks to get something in on that. But this would allow them to apply without, we're not committing dollars at that time, but just give some thought to that and maybe come back. The other item that I would like to caution the council as well as our city manager is that although that these meetings are under the quorum, you have to be careful that those meetings still do not violate the Open Meetings Act. If you read the Open Meetings Act, we could be in violation even if only 2 people meet. It depends what happens. If it results in a vote or a decision, we got to be real careful that you're not having individual meetings to make that decision. So, I don't know if the new members of council got it, but we did get I know I received a Open Meetings Act, it's a handbook that was distributed by our Attorney General, Dana Nessel. So I would think that we need to be careful with that, especially the fact that if we don't have a full council meeting and we discuss it, I have some issues with transparency, making sure that folks know what we're talking about before we go. And the budget is one of the most important things that we can deal with from my standpoint. And that's it.
Mr. Rodriguez.
While I had time here, I did a basic review of Robert's rules. And of course, I've heard people move to vote immediately. Never heard it stated I move to the previous question. So, but that is another way to say the same thing. It is my opinion that the process was not followed accurately based on what I looked up. So I would just recommend that we all review that. Nevertheless, I'm sure if it would have followed, it would have had the exact same result. So no harm, no foul. But we should definitely review that to make sure the process is followed correctly. And I don't have anything else. Thank you.
All right, we'll look at it, but I'm pretty sure that that's the correct way when somebody calls a question, but we can look that up. I just like to say, it's not all dull and humdrum. I came past on the way in, came past the old tennis courts, which was full, parking.
Nice.
That was a great deal. I drive past and I look at the tree nursery all the time. I drive past it every day next to the river where we have our cows, so that's kind of cool that we're out doing all these things. We talk about today the guy caught me at the John Deere dealership and was congratulating us on the Carmel Township contract and how much happy he is about that and how much better it is. And it just seems like sometimes we get in this doldrum of complain, bitch, and moan and groan, but I think there's a lot of good things going around here. A lot of super accomplishments that's been done. If we look at, the agenda tonight, we'll get through this zoning thing somehow. It's going to make some people mad, but, those things can all get done. And as Jody said, look at the grants. Think about how many grants you were seeing come to this council 5 years ago, or 3 or 4, and it was 0. Now it's almost every meeting. And I don't think there's anything wrong with Mr. Chin's suggestion that maybe the manager be allowed to allow that. But I also remind you that I was here in this council when there were a few people on the council had a complete conniption fit that they were asking for grants without coming to the council. So that got changed, and then everybody had to come to the council. So, things go back and forth, and I think we need to take all those with a little grain of salt and be happy some days that we got people out there that are looking out for us. So with that, we will ask for a motion.
So moved.
To move to a closed session.
Closed session.
Somebody can read it. Do you have it in front of you? There, read that.
Motion closed pursuant to Section 8H of the Open Meetings Act to consider material exempt from disclosure by state statute, Section 13(1) of the Freedom of Information Act, which exempts the public disclosure, information or records subject to the attorney-client privilege, being confidential attorney-client written communications dated May 11th, 2025 regarding MDCR 2026.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Fullerton.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Christensen is absent. Brummett.
Yes.
Chin.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Yes.
Can we have 5-minute break?
Sure. 5-minute break. Mr. Christensen is joining us on the phone.
Motion to adjourn.
I think he's got to turn the web or something back on.
We're good.
She says we're done. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Good night.